Welcome, everyone, to Pitch Purpose with Tony Winslow. I'm your host, Tony, and I'm here with Justin Carabello from Carabello Coffee. It's a local coffee shop in Newport, Kentucky, which is very close to the area that I live. And it's a privilege to have Justin here. It's actually not the first time that I've interviewed Justin. I don't know if you remember, Justin. I came to the shop um, probably about 8 years ago, and I was taking an entrepreneurship course at Northern Kentucky University, and we had to do a project about social entrepreneurship, or just project about entrepreneurship. So I contacted you, and I thought it was awesome. Well, first, you took time of your schedule, but you also were, I think it was a Monday, and you were either roasting coffee or you were bagging coffee. And it was just fun to experience that with you. And
Cool.
it was really unique because, it's, you were very, something that struck me different about you is that how real you are. And that's, it's like you have that you don't have like you're not holding anything back. You're not like being too forward, but you're just being yourself and you're being real. And you shared your story with me and shared even like you know vulnerable moments of your past. And as someone,
Wow.
I think I'm too concerned most of the time with what people think, and I appreciated that about you. So I'm so thankful to have
Thank
the opportunity.
thank you. Yeah, I'm honored to be here. I don't exactly remember that moment,
That's okay.
but I'm glad that connecting now 8 years later.
So tell me about Carabella Coffee. Tell me about the story of you founding the coffee shop and
Yeah.
where it started.
Yeah. So for my wife and I, 14 years ago, we are bebopping along as newlyweds and teaching at a private Christian school in here in Cincinnati area, and we started hearing stories about this orphanage that was being founded in Nicaragua. My wife's parents were a part of helping to raise funds for this place, and they were rescuing 18 kids out of living in a trash dump. We gave some modest donations, and we're really touched by just the reality that no social safety net in a place would result in families who can't care for their kids to literally like take them to the dump and drop them off there. Um, and that really broke our hearts. And we began to discuss was, maybe we could do more. What does it look like? Are there other revenue streams that we could create in our lives? And, we're praying people, and um, out of the blue, like came this idea. Well, what if we could start a coffee roasting company that would be philanthropic in nature, that would leverage people's love of coffee to help offset some of the realities of the social injustices or the poverty that's happening in coffee communities. And it just seemed so macro and so like, how in the world would we do that? Interestingly enough, I had gotten into home roasting coffee in a popcorn popper, introduced by a friend of mine who was into that and discovered there's a whole subculture of people in America roasting coffee at home and all kinds of contraptions and devices, modifying grills and all kinds of things to do this. And so I was kind of like just smitten with this as a hobby.
Sure.
But this idea, could we take this hobby, create another revenue stream? That's really where we started. And we spent $300 of my parents' money. They bought us a 1 pound little home roaster and called a Baymore 1600. We threw an email out to everybody we knew. We said, hey, we have 8 pounds of coffee from Nicaragua that we scored from a website, and we want to give all the money that we earn from this to help these kiddos. Does anybody want to try it? We didn't even have a name for the company. It was just this idea. Well, that 8 pounds turned into 16, turned into 32, 64. People were really taking to this idea. This was 2009. That you could start, like doing something to help these kiddos. And the coffee was really good, high quality. And so we started as a roasting company, just totally on the side, farmers markets, like that's the guy eyeing up with people in
Yeah.
parking lots and driving coffee to people's houses, nothing fancy, just writing Carabello coffee all in a brown paper bag.
So
You
when you
know,
started, were you even when you started roasting that first pound of coffee or first 8 pounds, like were you thinking, oh, like we'll see what happens, this is might be a new business? Or were you like, hey, like we just want to help these kids and here's some coffee, no intention of starting?
I assure you that we did not think of it in terms of like we're starting a legit enterprise.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we thought of it as like we're sort of maybe makers, doing like thing on the side that will take up some time
Sure.
and could be really fun, but not going to take over our lives and we're going to become the coffee people. And now 14 years later, like this is for a lot of folks, like I to see to them, like we are the Carabellos. We do coffee. That was not something we intended to do or saw coming. So yeah, that kind of caught us by surprise.
Yeah.
I was a band director. My wife's an art teacher. We had professions. We, never intended to be entrepreneurs.
Sure.
Um, but nevertheless, we hit on something that we believe God inspired us to do. We saw that people were very moved by this idea that they could enjoy a quality product that wasn't trying to skimp on quality, but at the same time do something to put something back into those communities. And as we explored relationships in places like Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, as our company, small little tiny company grew, we started taking trips, we started meeting people. We started realizing like, yeah, there's a way to build a bridge between coffee consumers here and people in coffee communities and producing communities there that could actually make an impact.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it had legs and it just eventually took over our lives. And then teaching and in 2013, dove in all in and opened our first retail store and, like established a legit commercial roasting facility and began to, do wholesale business online, the whole deal. And that's, I think, where you first met me. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So talk to me about I want to do a little coffee education for
Yeah.
our audience. You talked about originally. I want to talk about the purpose insight that you have. You had the intention, the heart stirred for these orphans in Nicaragua who were living in these horrible, uh, you know, desperate situations, and you
Mhm.
wanted to help them, and you were stretched to where you like to what you could do.
Right.
So then came this hobby of coffee, and turns out coffee is this passion of roasting great coffee, and you had a lot of fun, and it turned into something that people were interested in joining you. So
Right.
talk to me about the um, what's the word I'm looking for? Epiphany, I guess, that you had with how coffee is sourced and the
Mhm.
farmers that are, growing the
Yeah.
crop, and how you saw that problem and wanted to
Yeah.
to help.
Yeah, well, it really started for me when as I got into just again, I'm a hobbyist on roasting coffee, and I started seeing like, oh, there's some really great books written about the history of coffee. I got one called Uncommon Grounds, which is a great treatise on sort of the history of coffee. I started learning that well, the history of coffee is really tied to sort of the history of colonialism and a lot of Western European nations basically, going out into the world and looking for other places to enrich their nation. And part of that is trade, part of that is conquering and taking or getting the natural resources of those lands and bringing them to bear on their own economies and own population, that sort of thing. So coffee, everywhere coffee went, what I learned is oh, it's everywhere it went, it was introduced as a cash crop, like only native to Western Ethiopia, the species of Arabica coffee, which is what we enjoy and love. Um, and so therefore everywhere it went, it was introduced as a cash crop, but it wasn't introduced as a cash crop in a fair market sort of scenario. um, was introduced in this sort of way, like, hey, newly conquered people that now like took over, we've got this thing that we think would thrive in your environment. We'd love for you to grow it for us, and we'll handsomely pay you this sum of money uh, that we dictate, and in exchange. And of course, so from the beginning, it wasn't a handsome sum of money; it was a pittance. And these people felt in a lot of ways like, well, what choice do I have? And so the irony of the history of coffee is in many places, in most places where it is grown, those people are completely disconnected from what we enjoy on this side of the supply chain. These people, I've met many people that they've never tasted a latte, they've never seen an espresso machine. They don't know what in the world we really even do with this. All they know is they're picking a berry off of a shrub and delivering it to a mill, and earning a small amount of money in exchange for it. Completely disconnected from like the supply chain is just the two sides of it are just absolutely disconnected. So
Sure.
unfortunately, what I started learning was, oh dang, like the history of coffee is like almost like a built-in injustice. And even today, the price of coffee globally, the base price of most of coffee is set by the New York Commodities Exchange, which in a lot of ways is mostly manipulatable by the consuming nations to keep the price low. And so what I started learning was, there's a new way of thinking emerging that started really in the 70s with Alfred Pete and Pete's Coffee, and but really took off in the early 2000s of like direct trades. This idea that what if we could work directly with farmers?
Hmm.
What if we could bypass some of the parts of the supply chain and really get the people and say, look, what is it going to take for you to produce a quality product? What does that look like? What kind of infrastructure investments do you need? What kind of pricing do you need for this to really make sense? Because what I learned, and what a lot of people don't understand, is in every country besides Brazil, that a specialty coffee farmer on average earns below the poverty line and needs government subsidization
Wow.
in order to avoid that. Coffee is highly subsidized by governments. And that's what makes it work. And it doesn't really work, so the system is flawed. And we've entered into a movement of roasters and importers who have set out to basically try to change this by detaching the price of coffee from the market,
Sure.
or building some kind of like quality differential price that's paid on top of a baseline price for the coffee that we recognize as like sort of, if we go below it, there's no way anyone could produce the quality that we desire at less than a certain amount. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm rambling a little bit.
No, you're great. I'm fascinated. So
But these are the types of things I started discovering. And like, oh my gosh, well, if I've drank coffee my whole life and I'm, let's say 35, 40 years old at the time, well, that means most of the people I know also don't know anything about this,
yeah,
like we're just, coffee has been this like product that we enjoy almost ubiquitously in our nation, but we're so disconnected from the reality of what's actually happening.
absolutely.
Like, where does this really come from? We don't know it's the seed of a cherry. We don't even know what it means that it's roasted. What does that mean? Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of fascinating how that's happened.
Now so you talked a lot about the supply chain. Help us understand when someone is buying coffee, you'll see fair trade, ethical sourcing.
Right.
What does that really mean, and how does a consumer purchase coffee in a way that's, supporting the farmer and then not
Right.
like keeping them in that, infrastructure of
Yeah.
getting paid little?
Yeah. Great. it's really important to understand what fair trade and organic and Rainforest Alliance, and these are certifications by third-party entities. They all mean different things. What they do not mean is quality.
Sure.
Fair trade coffee, if you see fair trade, if you see organics, if you see Rainforest Alliance, if you see bird friendly, it does not mean this is a quality product. And that's an important thing to understand. Fair trade means that this coffee, the price of this coffee cannot go below $1.60 a pound. That is a floor for the price. What it means is wherever the price of the market is at, the fair trade producer gets a nickel more per pound than the market price, as long as the market price is not below $1.60.
Okay.
But it costs on average about $2.30 to $2.50 to really produce a quality pound of coffee for the producer. So just because you see fair trade doesn't mean that someone got paid a price that actually is a livable wage in their work.
Sure.
Okay, so for people, what can they do? I encourage people all the time: don't shop a sticker. Just avoid all of that. It's very important, in my opinion, to be able to go to a local coffee roasting company in your city, in your town, or online. Find somebody that you can actually discuss what's going on. Like, hey, where's this coffee coming from? Tell me about it. Like, do you know the producers you're working with, or learn about your roaster? Like, what's your ethos? What's your guiding principles? Like, how do I know that you're really paying people well? Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you go to a specialty coffee roaster, so like in Cincinnati, Carabello, Deeper Roots, Coffee Emporium, Proud Hound, Lattes, Numa, those types of companies yield, chances are really good buying a high quality product that the people are at least getting paid a halfway decent price, because you can't produce high quality without paying for it on some level.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that it's the best price they could be paid, but again, until you engage with people that have demonstrated integrity, and you can see that. And the best thing I encourage people to look for is you look for long-term relationships with a roasting company and a producer.
Absolutely.
So, for example, in our line, anything that has a blue label on it those people are I would say they are my friends. These are producers that I know and have known for many years. And I would say, like, we are regularly communicating and we have a friendship. It's a true relationship. It's not just like I did a drive-by to your farm, we shook hands, I snapped some photos with you, and now you're my partner.
Sure.
There's a lot of that out there. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about we have spent a lot of time together over a series of years, and I feel really good about the fact that you would probably call me your friend. And that we have
you've taken many trips to Nicaragua and around the world to visit.
Sure.
Is that unusual, or is that something common for small coffee shop owners like yourself?
Well, it's important. Well, first of all, it's important to recognize. So we're a roasting company that has a coffee shop.
Okay.
So it would be very unusual for a coffee shop owner to have taken a trip to meet a coffee
roaster. Sure.
Right. So as a roaster, it has become rather, somewhat popular for all of us to have some relationship somewhere with some producers, because it does give us the ability to then understand their world better. It gives us the ability to build a relationship that potentially we could invest in. Like we have made long-term investments in 5 producers' farms. Like, I've helped them build infrastructure on their farm. We invested tens of thousands of dollars back into their operations on top of what we paid them for the coffee. So it gives us all the opportunity to experience that, so that over a long period of time, we can produce something that's quality together. It helps them understand our world and us understand their world, because till the producer understands the world that the roaster is living in,
Hmm.
and the market factors that I have to engage with and deal with, it's hard for them to understand why sometimes we may request certain things of them, and vice versa. Like, for example, right now the coffee market price is very high. And because we have some long-term relationships with producers in Nicaragua, even though their costs are rising, my costs are rising too. And we're able to look at the reality of both. And actually this year, um, instead of the price going up, they wanted the price to go up a lot higher than we could really sustain. And I was able to say, look, guys, I've overpaid you for years, for 5, 6, 7 years. I paid you more than you would have got if you would have sold your coffee to someone else.
Sure.
And I feel like that has to count for something in this moment. I need you to understand that side of it, that like I've willingly overpaid you. So actually, we landed at a place where the price did go up, but not as much as they wanted it to.
Sure.
But not because I'm like some big, bad, greedy guy, but because like, well, this is maybe a time where I need you to help me out,
Huh.
because I've got customers, and I can only move this price for a business so much, and at one time, that business says, "Hey, Carabello, we love you, and we love you want to help these people, but we can't absorb a 20%
Sure.
increase in costs. We've got to go somewhere else." And so from the good thing about when a roaster and the producers like develop these relationships over time, what it helps us understand is, what does it look like for two of us to win over a long period? And sometimes that means like they get more. Sometimes it means I need to get more, like, because there's this ebb and flow to the reality of what we're all trying to do. So yeah, it's kind of, to go back to your original question, it's common at this stage in the game for most roasters to have a few of those types of relationships. But it's hard for us to have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because it's just unsustainable to travel. I mean, coffee's a globally, produced product. So unless I want to really limit what I offer to only a small part of the world, it's unsustainable for me to go to Africa, Indonesia, South America, and Central America all the time, right? So that's where we all rely on importing companies that have reputations of building those types of meaningful relationships with their producers, and kind of lean on them for a good chunk of what we buy.
So, well, thank you for explaining that. I want to. No, you're perfect.
It's crazy work.
And it's really interesting, and I've learned a lot. So tell me about something that you learned. So back thinking about, you started in 2009. You got the $300 loan from your parents for the coffee roaster. Fast
Yeah.
forward 4 years, you open up your first shops. Your only shop to this day.
Yeah.
What were some things that you learned? Some leadership insights, like the obstacles that you can help other leaders who may be going into something
Yeah.
new.
Yeah. I wrote a few things down. I think is important. Number one, people value an authentic story. It's very important for you to, in my opinion, it's very important for you to tell your story, but to tell it authentically. You've got to be who you are, and you have to say or do what you say you will do. That's very important. I think, if people can sniff that out real fast, and you even hit on that at the beginning, like you sensed in me, which I'm grateful for, a measure of authenticity. If this guy is who he says he is, and he's doing what he says he's doing, and that's really, because in business, I think still to this day, it's incredibly relational. and trust is very important. And the relationship built with your customer base is very important. Like we have gotten as a brand to a point where our customer base they have interacted enough with us to know like the quality level at which we are sourcing or putting out products, whether it's coffee, whether it's merchandise, whether it's grab and go stuff in our cafe, whether it's pastries, whatever it is. Like we have a quality threshold that we've demonstrated a commitment to. And so they are able to walk in the store or go on the website and buy with confidence, knowing that they're not going to get something and go and be underwhelmed. Like, well, that wasn't really as good as it just,
Sure.
you know, and I think it's important, to establish from the beginning an authenticity, tell the story, but tell, avoid hyperbole, avoid the temptation to overstate, to oversell, and underdeliver. Be real. Second thing is that we learned real quick we're going to need a lot of grit and determination and tenacity. Otherwise, we're just not going to. So I don't buy into the idea that you have to somehow just be the one who starts the thing. You have the idea, you start the thing, but really other people are going to somehow run this and bring this to life. And then it's going to turn into this amazing business that like startup is so unlike, it's just really unlikely that you're going to avoid having to have the grit, determination, and tenacity to be willing to do 150% of whatever it will take to bring your vision to life and see it through to a point where it becomes mature enough to stand on its own. And that's probably going to be a 7 to 10 year process. You're probably going to have to be willing to have enough grit and determination to get at least to year 10. Or the thing that you want to make probably is going to fail. I mean, the odds are pretty much stacked against you. And the third thing I'll just say is like cash really is king. You have to balance sound financial decision. It's very important to manage money well. My wife and I took as little from the business as we possibly could for the first 6 to 8 years. Like, what is the least amount of money we can pay ourselves? What is the least amount we can like take from it for whatever, so that it can have the most amount of capital available to it to grow, take advantage of opportunities, reinvest in it. So, I think it's really important to play a long game with the financial side. Don't, like people will show up all the time and ask us, they'll say, hey, we want to start a coffee shop. We want to start a coffee shop. We have 5 kids, and we're both going to like quit our jobs and open this coffee shop. And like other people are going to run it. And they somehow think that they're going to support a family of 7 on this. It's just absolutely like a pipe. It's like you can't possibly start something that's going to need every dollar it can possibly get to rebuy the things that it needs to grow and then you're going to somehow like pull $100,000 a year out of it to live on. It's like, what planet are you living on? But people really think this. They somehow think that they're going to create a business that's going to pay them like a wage that they're earning somewhere else right away. And it's just, it's dangerous. So better if it takes very long term, having you bootstrap a thing, unless you want to just be beholden to investors who dump a big pile of money in a pot and you pay yourself handsomely out of the gate. It's probably that you're going to have to delay your gratification for compensation for the sake of the business being able to grow and being healthy. So those are the 3 things I thought maybe I would share.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I want to touch on a few things. Well, they tie together. So you talked about story and being authentic. I think something that's been unique to as a consumer of Carabello coffee is the letters that were sent, particularly when I started ordering online with COVID. There'd be, I think I received five or
Yeah.
six over the course of the year, different letters from you, or Emily, your wife, and just hearing the stories, hearing about the impact, and you sharing the way you feel by either people's generosity or being scared about, okay, what's going to happen? Like you're being real throughout that. And, that translates to the emails and to even speaking of grit, the Kickstarter that was started. And we don't have time to get into that
Right.
today, but, back, what year was that you all did the Kickstarter project?
That was 2014, December
2014. So being able to hear your story through that and what you did to grow the shop and expand is inspiring. So let's talk about the whole cash is king aspect that you talked about. Now that I'm saying that's kind of a weird transition to talk about COVID-19 impact.
No.
But yeah, so overnight, March 2020, the world shuts down. And I know that that was, very hard for a lot of businesses, including yours. Talk to me about that and how you pivoted and the various challenges.
Yes. Well, like most business owners, we are, just riding a really great economic wave there, beginning of 2020, and things were looking really great. And actually, we're actually with some wholesale customers, in Nicaragua, visiting producers, when everything started to unravel. So we were having like this out of body experiences. We were watching from a distance, like all of a sudden, all these things sort of like going down. And then, of course, came back. And 2 days later, he stood up and said, okay, businesses like be closed 2 days at 5 p.m. It was sort of like, what in the world is happening? So, for us, the bottom just like dropped out immediately. We were working about 25 pounds of coffee a week to supply to other businesses. We got orders for 75 pounds of coffee. The first week that happened. So like a 97% just like decrease, of course, because everybody in the service industry was like, we're closed, right? Our coffee shops closed. So my wife had this idea, wait, we have these two windows in the side of the building that open and close. What if we turn them into walk-up windows? Like order here, pick up here. So we were able to, fortunately, within 2 days, like reopen serving out of these two windows because you couldn't come in. I made signs, we started the PMS system, like whatever we could to make that possible. And our customer base just absolutely loved it. And we put a tent out there, we tried to make it as hospitable as we could, but they loved like, oh my gosh, you guys are finding a way for me to still like get out of the house, have some slice of normal while we try to figure out what the heck is going on. And they love to see like, again, like, hey, like we have to be creative. Like we have to rely on you. I think one of the greatest things that did for customer base is it really, we helped them understand how important they were to us. Coffee, where you get your coffee tends to, for a lot of people, be a very emotional thing, especially if you're like a latte or you like going to your coffee shop. You feel this connection. So the reality that like all these people that you love to see, their jobs are on the line. Like if you don't show up, it actually matters. And our customer base just responded absolutely well to that. So all throughout COVID on the retail side, we kept making, we kept pivoting everywhere we could, like online. We had always done e-commerce, but just we made it very clear to everybody, guys, please buy our coffee online. And so, we did coffee to healthcare workers. We did send coffee to first responders. We encourage our folks, like, let's send coffee to like all of our relatives all over the country. Let's try to fill a map and hit every state, like these states, like getting Carabello coffee. We tried to like find ways to inspire people to want to help us. And that's where the letters came from. I sat down that very first day and I wrote a letter. I'm like, guys, I can't, I don't know what else to do, but just to be honest, like, I feel like this thing we started that's now, 12 years old, that we've like poured our blood, sweat, and tears in is now suddenly threatened to just be evaporated by the fact that somebody stands up and just makes an edict. You can't do the things you always did. And suddenly then all this is in jeopardy. And we really need you. It actually matters. And there's this massive ripple effect downstream to the producer level that's going to be very real if what we're doing here isn't able to continue on. So, yeah, I mean, it's just the stories are just too many to tell, and the amount of time but we just really with the phrase that my wife kept saying is we need to be creative and not combative. So rather than being combative as a business, rather than getting angry at the forces that were, at work that were making commerce difficult, we decided to get as creative as we possibly could to overcome it. For example, the second time we were shut down as a retail store, you were told that people can come in the business and order product, but they can't sit in the business to like consume it. But you can shop. Okay, so we set the word out to a lot of fair trade vendors and a lot of other small like pop-up style vendors and said, guys, we want to create a pop-up retail shop in our store. I mean, it was November and December. It was like the holiday season. People can shop in our store, but they can't sit and drink coffee. So yeah, we said to our customer base, hey, feel free to come and get your drink and shop. As long as you're shopping in our store, you can hang out in our cafe according to the governor. You just can't sit in a chair. And, again, that's like being creative, find a way. And it was many, many things like that. We never lost an employee. We never had to let anyone go. We did get a PPP loan early on. The fact that we had really good banking relationships, a really good lawyer, really good connections with accounting folks. When everything hit the fan, all of those relationships that we had spent years cultivating and building really came to bear because I didn't know I didn't know how am I going to apply for this loan? What's available? What kind of help is out there? What grants are, I was on so many calls with other business owners, like, what are you learning? Like, what are you finding out? Like, who should I talk to? And like, oh yeah, like give this guy a call. Like this guy figured this out over here. Like that's where I really saw those years of relationship building suddenly were brought to bear. And I understood my business in that period of time better than any other time. We knew exactly to the dollar how much we needed every day to keep the lights on. We were so grateful that we had saved 6 months worth of all of our operating expenses. It was sitting in the bank, just waiting for a catastrophic event. And so it was like, great. This is why we embraced that wisdom and did that and like created a buffer to get us through. We didn't have to fear, like being destroyed in a moment. It was more like, can we make it through whatever this season?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. It took about 2 years off.
You still look great.
Yeah.
And you just celebrated your 50th birthday as well. So for those.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I don't know where going somewhere in my head. I can't think of it right now, but
It's all right, man.
So let's transition. And yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I loved what you were talking about with what your wife said, what Emily said was, instead of being combative, being creative, it's so easy to shake our fists and be like, oh, why is this happening? No matter what happens in life, personal, professional, whatever, it's just, so that's sage advice. So talk to me about your favorite story from your time at Carabello Coffee.
Yeah. This one was easy for me. It was being introduced or meeting Luis Alberto Valladares, who is I'm a dear friend and is for us like the longest standing producer we've worked with in Nicaragua. It's been over
Wow.
10 years now that we've been working together. And what happened was I was on a website really early on. I think this was 2010, 2011. And I saw that this gentleman, Luis Alberto Valladares, had won third place in a competition called Cup of Excellence in Nicaragua, and that he had just taken 100% of the winnings from his farm for that competition lot and donated it to an organization to build houses for the poor in his community. And I thought, wow, that's exciting. That someone living in a place like Nicaragua and winning a competition and getting, I mean, $5 a pound or something like that for this coffee would want to do that. And so I thought I want to really meet this guy, and I tried to find him. I tried to search for him online. I couldn't find any way to contact him, but I knew that he lived sort of in this one area, and I knew that area was about 15, 20 kilometers from the orphanage that we were supporting. So fast forward 6 months, we're in Nicaragua. We land. The folks who, were running the organization picked us up. The gentleman, Pastor Carlos Faez, and we're in the car. And I said, "Hey, Carlos, I'm trying to meet this man, Luis, and I know his name, and I know that he lives in Ocotal, which is the city. Do you think you could help me try to find him, maybe network to him or something?" He goes, "Oh, I just met him last week." And he opens his wallet, pulls out his business card, and he says, "Let's call him up." And I was like, freaking kidding me. And within a day, on the spans, at the time he had, I think, 3 coffee farms. It was on one of his farms and seeing his operation. And we sat and we talked and shared our hearts. And, he said, "Justin, we have the same vision for our business, that we want to run our business in a way that brings glory to our God and that bring impact to our community. We have the same heart." And he said, I want to invest in the dream you have." And he said, "I'm going to spend, he said, 10 bags. I'm going to send 10 bags of my best coffee to you as a gift. And you take the money that you earn from that and invest it in whatever project God puts on your heart." And my wife and I were sitting there, because it was like a translator, and then like 10 bags.
Sure.
Need 10 bags of, like little bags of coffee. And it turned out he meant 1,500 pounds of coffee. That was like the beginning of our relationship. And I thought, how exceptional a person is it that I'm dealing with? And, that relationship has become very important to us. And we always have Luis's coffee on our shelves or on our website. It's very important. We make sure we buy enough of different kinds that he does. And that was actually my 50th birthday bean.
This coffee.
Were the most recent competition lot coffee that he produced last year. So phenomenal producer, phenomenal human being, doing something really exceptional in a place that is honestly very difficult to do something really exceptional. So yeah, that's an easy story for me.
I love that.
So.
That's great. So talk to us about before we close here, I want to get to some recommendations that you have as far as books and leadership frameworks or whatever it may be. But let's talk a little bit about the impact that you've been able to make on some of these communities. And
that's a good question. I mean, I think it's sometimes really hard to quantify, because impact's happening on a lot of different levels. Certainly on a certain level, there is an economic impact that is really starts with paying good prices for coffee. So, historically, for the time that we've been doing this, we've averaged probably paying about 3 times the market price for our coffee in Nicaragua and some other parts of the world. And that economic impact, I think, is the most important. Is that people can earn a good price for what they produce. I mean, that's what we want, right? We want to earn a fair return on our investment. So that translates to hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point.
Yeah.
More that we have spent than maybe we would have had to, had we been more shrewd about wanting to source a similar quality, elsewhere, or not, or maybe drive those prices down. Then some other things. I mean, one of the things that I think is the coolest thing that has happened is, we work with a really large mega church here in Cincinnati called Crossroads, which has about 10 campuses in the Midwest, but it's like 5 really big ones here in the Cincinnati area. And about 6 years ago, they came to us and said, "Look, we want our coffee dollars to really count and create as much impact as possible." And they were sponsoring through Compassion International 6,500 kids in the nation of Nicaragua on a monthly basis. And so they wanted to do something with coffee in Nicaragua. And so we took a couple of their leaders down to Nicaragua so they could meet Luis and see everything and meet some other folks. And as we began exploring that relationship and became together about a 3 things. One of the things that came up was Luis one year said, "Hey, look, he took some of them to a really poor area where it's a very gang infested area called Barrio Sandino in Ocotao, the city." And he said, "Look, right here in this neighborhood, you either become a part of the gang. If you're a young teenage boy or a young teenage girl, you either become part of a gang, or your life becomes run by the gang. You either, if you're a young girl, you become, maybe the play toy of some gang member, or as a gang, basically dictates your life." He said, "These kids don't have any real hope of dreaming a future outside of this kind of violent reality." He said, "I want to change that. I want to do something. I bought some land. I want to invest in these kids. I want to build, like maybe some kind of vocational center, or teach kids trades or skills that they could use to maybe get jobs to get them out of here, and this and that." And one of the things that one of the Crossroads leaders said was, "Luis, do you know about Compassion International, this organization?" They said, "Well, I don't." And they explained they help families, poor children, and provide like some measure of stability by helping them with education and the food and whatnot. They said, "You're a pastor in your local community, and they like to work with local churches. I think we could connect them with you, and maybe something could come out of that." So he was very open to this idea. So fast forward another year. This was 2020 now. By the time we get to 2020, we were able to establish a child development center in that community where now 250 children, their families are being helped every month. Those children are being sponsored now through Compassion International. And I've been able to visit that center a number of times. I've been able to, engage and interact with the leaders of the center there and see what's happening. And that all has come about not even because Carabello Coffee did some things, but because of this relationship that now is expanding. Like, the power of trading coffee in this way creates possibilities, because people enter into relationships and they value them, and then opportunities come up or ideas emerge. And so, that's one of a number of things like that's emerged over the last 10 years, where it's not even necessarily us creating impact. And that's what I believe the vision that we had in the beginning was, what if the coffee can actually become a bridge to relationships? And across that bridge, like people in consuming nations and producing nations can build relationships that then lead to some of these injustices and things maybe being offset in some small way, some change happening. So yeah, I mean, that's the best demonstration maybe I could give of the types of things that are happening. Um, but yeah, it's really rewarding to be a part of this because I'm seeing that there's a lot of good still going on in the earth, and we see a lot of bad stuff in the news, and a lot of bad things are happening, and a lot of people are suffering. But I see a lot of folks rising up to want to do something about that. And it's really important that we not forget. And I feel like I get to see that in a lot of tangible ways, and I'm encouraged.
I love all the
Yeah.
multifaceted or all the various groups that were involved in that story because you have Crossroads, a nonprofit church organization, reaching out to you as a for-profit company, but you're just connecting them with Luis, and you're kind of you're in the middle, helping
Yeah.
facilitate these relationships, which is awesome. And thinking about from a philanthropy aspect as well, the fact that you're paying 3 times more for coffee, you don't get to like assume that you're not being able to like write that off or show, hey, I donated this much money. Like you're just doing it because it's the right thing to do. And it's changing the lives of other people, and you're growing
Yeah.
your business throughout. So talk to me about
Yeah.
some books, any recommendations. You mentioned the Uncommon Grounds. What takeaways should people have from your story and for what you've learned?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I wrote down a few. I would just start with the E Myth Revisited, which is a classic business book. If you're an entrepreneur or if you're someone who's thinking about starting your own business on any level, I think that's just a good book to read and to understand what is, what's the difference between doing the work of a business and running a business, because they're very different. The E Myth Revisited, I think, is a great classic. Everyone who's going to start a business should read it. Book. Another great book that I've been impacted by is called Every Good Idea by Tim Keller, and it's just a great book on the value of vocation and helping to contextualize vocation. I think we sometimes suffer from a lack of understanding of where does work fit into our lives and the significance of it and the value. So that's a great book that helps just create I think is a really good context for that. Because we're going to do a lot of work. And if we're going to start a business, it probably is going to own us for a time. So having a framework and an understanding of like, okay, what's the significance of this? Why can it be so valuable and impactful? That's a great book for that. Third one I would suggest is a book called Setting the Tables by Danny Meyer. This is a book. Danny Meyer is the founder of Shake Shack. He's opened, I think, as many as 10 different restaurants in New York City. Not one of them has ever closed. Maybe before COVID, they closed a few of them. But Danny Meyer, his book, Setting the Table, is a great book about hospitality and the power of hospitality. And even if you're not going to be in the hospitality business or industry, I think it's great to understand the power of hospitality. And in that book, you can see how his value system of hospitality actually like laid itself out in the opening of restaurant concepts, which to succeed in the restaurant industry is one of the most difficult industries to succeed in for a large time. So I think there's a lot of value in there for any business owner, but we use that a lot in our business to help our people understand the power of hospitality in the context of business is really powerful. And then the last one is honestly the book of Proverbs in the Bible. I think, to be honest, no matter where you are in life, whether you're a person of faith or not, the book of Proverbs is full of timeless wisdom and insight about people and life. in general. And there's a ton in regards to commerce and money and relationships. And I think there's a lot of wisdom. Business is relationships. And yes, money is involved and it's important and it's a big part of it. But understanding people and how people operate and who is trustworthy, who's not trustworthy, and how do you figure that out? And how do you size up opportunities and relationships and people and who you should align with and who you shouldn't align with? That's a big part of whether or not any of that makes sense. And a lot of people make mistakes because they don't understand people and human nature. And how do I know whether or not I can trust somebody? And so I think that's a great, I don't know, I think reading those 31 chapters on any kind of rhythmic basis in that book is just a great, oh yeah, let me,
Sure.
wow, yeah, let me be reminded of some things because they're just,
Yeah.
they're just true. So yeah, those are 4 books that I would suggest
That's
any
great.
future person
Yep.
starting out, or even
Sure.
well seasoned down the road.
Somebody, Joe Schlotman from Dewey's, who was my last guest, he mentioned Setting the Table as well. So yeah, must be a popular
Oh, cool!
book. Sure. So
I'm glad
yeah.
to hear that. I love Dewey's.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation. And I want to point people to, carabellocoffee.com, wherever you're out in the US, you can order. What is that? The first time promo code for ordering coffee?
First order 22. I'll get you 20% off. First order 22. Save 20% off your first order. We'll ship
And of course, if you're in the tri-state area,
yeah,
go to Newport and check out the shop and buy a shirt. Like I got here. And get some coffee. Yeah, it's incredible. Anything else that you'd like to share, Justin, while we're here?
I would just leave it with this. Don't be afraid to dream your dream and go for it. America is still a great place where you have the opportunity to, bring something to life that doesn't exist before we do it. And so go for it. And not be afraid, but at the same time, like do it in a way that it's going to probably, mean you're going to succeed.
10-year
But
commitment.
yeah, go for it. Just go for it. Yeah. And be committed.
Well, that's great. I appreciate that. All right, Justin.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, again,
you're
thank you. And thank you for those listening. And
Thank you.
hope you enjoy the rest of your week. All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate the opportunity to tell our story and engage on your podcast. It's been a real blessing.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.